That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to a special edition of Higher Ed Pulse. I'm your host, Mallory Wilsey, and we're live at the 2024 AMA Symposium for the Marketing of Higher Education, bringing you conversations directly from the floor with thought leaders, innovators, and industry changemakers. Let's dive in and check the pulse of what's happening right here at the symposium. All right, friends, we are back live at AMA. I am now sitting down with Nathan Ament, the VP of Enrollment at Knox College. Now, Nathan, I know you are no stranger behind a podcast microphone, but this is your first AMA in Vegas nonetheless. All right, real talk. What is an enrollment professional doing at a Marcom conference?
Well, we do a lot of enrollment and marketing, right? That's pretty much what we have to be able to do. And we have a very small shop. We're a small college. Knox College is very small. And so the communication staff is small but mighty, but a lot of the lift does come out of the admissions shop. So this is very relevant. I'd heard great things about this conference from other colleagues and realized that a lot of the conversations here were, of course, about campus comms and executive communications and things like that, but a lot of the sessions were about enrollment and admissions. So I thought I would give it a shot. And it was in Chicago last year. I missed that, but here we are in Vegas.
And here we are in Vegas. Listeners, we are nearly at the end of the first full day of the conference. So there has been keynotes and sessions and all sorts of things happening. And so, Nathan, I'm curious to learn a little bit about, what stood out to you. Like, has there been a session that's had some really powerful takeaways or maybe the keynote?
Great question. I went to the keynote. It was some really authentic views on inclusion and why, and kind of redefining or maybe simplifying inclusion, if that makes sense, and really what we need to think about it. And he came from a science perspective, which was really interesting, and he was a great speaker. I love keynotes. Personally, I think it's a great way to, of course, always start a conference. The session I just came from before coming and recording this interview with you was about how to portray or how to convey the value of higher education to other stakeholders, to stakeholders that are not in higher education. It was a session that was, it was a fireside chat actually from two schools out west, and they talked about campaigns they had within the state, how they're actually working with, state constituents around any of the funding that's available to them, and really trying to say, hey, how can we actually show and demonstrate with data and with messaging around how higher education is making an impact statewide in two very fairly conservative states. Now, those were big institutions, so that was one of the things that was interesting from a small college. Like, how do we do that? They had big staffs and a lot of money available to them. But I think that's going to be, we're here post-election. Like, those are one of the things that we're going to have to talk about, not only in admissions marketing, but also in any type of marketing that the institution does, around the value of education, because that's what, I don't want to be completely exaggerating and say we're getting attacked, but some days it does feel like we're getting attacked slightly, I would say for both sides of the aisle, about the value of higher education.
What an important fireside chat to include at this conference. Listeners may know I dropped an interview with Teresa and Stephen, our co-chairs. They spoke in that interview quite a bit about how excited they are for this fireside chat programming. It's in its second year. And so, I didn't know that was going to be your answer. And yet here you are talking about how that was such a valuable conversation to be able to sit in on. So props to the AMA committee for recognizing there needs to be space for that type of conversation on that topic, but also the format, just absolutely incredible. All right. Well, we're actually going to spend a little bit of time now talking about artificial intelligence, but specifically around student recruitment, your role as a VP of enrollment. I'm curious to hear how you are currently thinking about AI and, where are you at in your own AI journey? Like, are you on the starting line or, if we're running a marathon, like, are we maybe at mile 13 at this point?
Oh, probably 13. I would say maybe 17. I'm not a runner, so I can't even talk about what that actually means for the entire marathon. Yeah, we've been doing a lot about student recruitment and AI. I feel like I've been talking about it ad nauseum, but we are really focusing our efforts on external communications that the AI is doing specifically with students, not necessarily how AI would make life easier for the admissions staff. I think that's important. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of tools out there that do make the lives of admissions counselors more easier and just to manage the volume of applications. But what we've been focusing on at Knox College is an AI student recruiter and how she is able to basically interact and have personal journeys with each of the students at the top of the funnel. This particular tool uses calling as one of the features. It's, I think, one of the few tools out there that actually utilizes calling. And what we found, and we're right here about ready to launch it, where it's going to start calling students, but we have done some test conversations where the students were calling in. I actually played one of those conversation clips for my board of trustees for the committee, the admissions committee, a couple of weeks ago, and it blew their minds, absolutely. And just at how long the students were actually conversing with an AI robot. Over the average conversation length was about 2 minutes. And they just kept one, for example, just couldn't get the answer that she wanted. So she asked it a couple different ways and didn't give up, which was actually fascinating. And then also to hear some of the feedback that they filled out, because of course, as a test case, we're trying to get information about how how they felt it was. They knew it was a test, a soft launch. But the biggest thing, which I think is just fascinating to me, is that the students basically said it takes the judgment out of these conversations. It takes the anxiety out of these conversations, because as nice as we have awesome admissions counselors who are super friendly and awesome, a lot of students don't want to talk to a human because they think that if they say something wrong, that it's going to hurt their chance on their admissions, that somehow that admissions counselor is going to judge them. We know that's not really the case, that admissions counselors are just trying to work with students, but the students aren't feeling that. The students are feeling like, I don't want to call, I don't want to talk to a human on the phone, but I have some questions, and how can I do that? And the AI is coming in, the student recruiter is coming in and filling that void. So that's just been absolutely fascinating to see at our mile 17 mark for that.
That's really fascinating. I have also seen some AI-powered voice in, its early days still, but it's incredible. I do think that there's people out there, though, who are going to hear this and they're going to be like, well, that's creepy. Did your board respond that way?
A little bit. I kind of led the witness and told them it would be a little creepy, so they were already predisposed to that. The board members were actually okay with it. It was one of the faculty representatives that was in the room that had some questions, and he was a physics professor, one of our advocates. And after the meeting, he came up to me and said, Nathan, where's that AI getting all its information from? And I said, well, it's combing the entire website, but we also trained it for a long time. I had conversations with our admissions staff. And he goes, but really it started with the website. I said, yeah. And he goes, that is bad news, because we have not updated the physics website in probably about 3 years. And he said, we have a problem, and what are we going to do? And then 2 weeks later, he stood up in front of our entire faculty and said, folks, Nathan's team is doing this with this tool that they have, and we have to now step up and update our websites, because if we don't, the AI bot is going to put wrong information out there, and that's a problem. Now, websites have been live for years and years and years, and we've made this argument, but until they heard the AI talk and actually have live conversations, something just clicked for him and realized that he had to actually update the website.
It's the Trojan horse for getting the website up to date. Like, who knew? Oh my gosh. No, I think that's fantastic. The fact, though, just within a couple weeks' time, you turned this faculty member right around. I mean, that's amazing. Now, something you actually said way back 5 minutes ago was that you are seeing, and you want to talk today about the transformational power of AI as it relates to the student engagement, not necessarily the staff efficiencies, which we know. I've talked about it at length on this podcast in other interviews. We know there is tons of opportunity for staff efficiency. But when it comes to that student engagement, here we go, great use case around voice. What are your thoughts, though, on AI assistance on the website, or even if we're going into the website rabbit hole, AI-powered site search?
Yeah, that's really interesting. We haven't been able to tackle that yet at Knox because our website is in a major need of overhaul, which we're working on right now. We're not finding that the students are coming to the website, though, for that AI-powered search. They are using Google, though, to find what they want, right? And that's AI-powered. And so that's a problem because maybe their information, again, is wrong. And so this goes back to the conversation with the faculty member of the website's now, instead of turned into a journey or something that the student is actually using, it's more of like an encyclopedia or repository of all the information about the college. But this tool that we have also has its own database. It has its own connections platform. And the AI for the last 3 months has been having chat conversations with those students. And we've been joking around that like the students are actually having longer and better scripted conversations. Like they're actually using punctuation. They're actually putting sentences together with like structure. And it's like totally different than all the essays they're actually putting on their Common App, right? So like, how are they able to do it? So clearly they have the possibility and the capability to write really well in a chat, but they're not then submitting an essay that's worth a darn. So I think that's just all fascinating that it shows to me yet again, because I'm also a father of teenage sons, when the students want to do something and then when they want to actually have like perform well or have a good conversation or whatever else, they will put effort into it and the quality will come out of it. But it just shows that you have to, again, in my mantra, you have to follow the student all the way along. So.
Well, and so here's the connector. We're talking about the student engagement and the power of AI around it, but an end result is still your staff's time back in their day, because now they're not fielding all of these queries. AI is picking it up for them, so they can go off and do the things that are really meaningful in their work and spend that time building more relationships with students. Have you found any advantages in those areas to date?
We haven't really gotten that far yet because I think this AI tool is not necessarily delivering leads through the AI tool. We're delivering leads through their other platform, but we're not necessarily delivering it through this AI tool. But that's the goal, right? Is to just give the conversations, give the leads that are better to the really to turn it into an application so then they can work with that admitted student. But that is what we've been preaching. We did have a little bit of like the first time I launched this, are they going to, is it going to replace us? I presented at different conferences about this tool with that partner, but they're not. It's just going to make it easier. And what I keep coming back to when I've talked to other VPs that are considering this tool is, what are you doing right now for all your inquiries? Or what are you doing right now for your prospects other than just running a whole lot of search emails? You're not. Like, nobody's doing a call center anymore. Nobody's doing interactive chats with that very top of the funnel. And so this is just another way or a piece of the funnel that we've been ignoring for years now because the numbers are so much larger that the admissions counselors can barely keep up with their application load. When I first started in admissions 23 years ago, we did have to call prospects. We did have to somehow figure out a way to get to them. Didn't have a CRM, didn't have mass marketing. And so I really think the funnel hasn't changed. That's a whole topic for a different podcast. But if we still have the funnel up there and we still have these name buys, we've basically been ignoring a big swath of that and expecting then that we're going to have better yield rates and wondering why the yield rates have been lower when we haven't been delivering better conversations.
Well, Nathan, you've certainly given our listeners a lot to think about here, and I know we've got a lot going on at AMA, so I don't want to hold you up from what I'm sure is going to be a great evening and another busy day tomorrow. If folks are looking for you after they listen to this and they want to connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
LinkedIn as always. And can I give a shameless plug for our podcast, the Admissions Directors Lunchcast? I know you set me up on that. Thank you, Mallory. The Admissions Directors Lunchcast, which I co-host with my friend and business partner, Tej Matil. We just wrapped our 8th season. We're planning for season number 9. If any of your listeners want to be on, shoot us an email, send us a message on LinkedIn. We love talking to people in admissions and in marketing.
All right. Love it. Thank you so much, Nathan. And listeners, keep your eyes peeled for more live at AMA episodes hitting your feed very soon. Bye-bye. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.